On June 18, 2020, a Thursday morning, auditors arrived at Wirecard headquarters in Munich. They were there to verify two bank accounts holding 1.9 billion euros. Company money, real money, reported on official documents for years. But the accounts, they were empty. Not low, not overdrawn, gone, as if they never existed. Because they didn't. And the man who built this company from nothing, trusted by investors, by banks, by the German government itself, he was gone too. To understand the betrayal, you need to understand the man. Markus Braun was not some backroom criminal, not some shady figure operating in the shadows. He was a PhD, an Austrian, a tech visionary, the kind of CEO that gets invited to government meetings, the kind of man financial magazines called the future of European banking. He joined Wirecard in 2002. Back then, a small company, nobody was watching. But Braun had a vision. He wanted Wirecard to compete with Visa, with MasterCard, with PayPal, a European company owning the future of digital payments. And for a while, it looked like he was doing it. By 2018, Wirecard stock had exploded. The company was worth over $28 billion. The company replaced a 100-year-old German bank in the DAX, Germany's most prestigious stock index. People called it a miracle. Braun became a symbol, proof that Europe could produce world-class tech, photographed, celebrated, trusted. But underneath all of it, the numbers were fake. Here's what makes this story different from every other corporate fraud. The warnings were there, loud, clear, documented. As early as 2015, Financial Times reporters found inconsistencies, numbers that didn't add up, accounts in Asia nobody could verify. They published their findings, and what happened? Wirecard sued them. Braun called the reporting false and misleading. The German financial regulator, instead of investigating Wirecard, investigated the journalists for potential market manipulation. Let that sink in. The people asking the right questions were treated like the criminals. And investors, they doubled down. Because the stock kept climbing, because Braun stayed confident, because Ernst & Young, one of the biggest audit firms in the world, kept signing off on the books. For 9 years, 9 years of audits, 9 years of clean reports, 1.9 billion euros that didn't exist, signed off, approved, verified. The betrayal wasn't just Braun's, it was the system. Every institution built to catch this failed or looked away. And that's a sobering thought, to consider the extent of the failure and the consequences that followed. June 2020. EY, Ernst & Young, finally refused to sign the annual audit. For the first time in almost a decade, they could not verify the accounts. Wirecard scrambled, and they claimed the money was real, held in trust accounts in the Philippines, in two banks, with 1.9 billion euros between them. The Philippine banks responded immediately. No accounts for Wirecard. No record, no relationship, nothing. The money was not missing. It had never existed. Wirecard's stock collapsed, 98%, in 2 days. Employees showed up, not knowing if they had jobs. Investors, pension funds, regular people, watched their savings disappear overnight. And Braun, he resigned, June 19th. Arrested 3 days later. But one man didn't wait for handcuffs. Jan Marsalek, Wirecard's chief operating officer. The man believed to be the actual architect of the fraud. He flew to Belarus and vanished. Interpol read notice, multiple intelligence agencies. Still, to this day, he is not found. Here's the part most people never talk about. The real damage wasn't the money. It was what happened to the people who tried to warn everyone years before it all collapsed. Stay with me, because this is where it gets darker. Remember the Financial Times journalists, the ones who published findings in 2015, the ones Wirecard sued, the ones the German regulator went after. They were right about everything, but being right didn't protect them. For years, they were discredited, called short sellers, market manipulators. People inside their own industry questioned their motives. And the whistleblowers inside Wirecard, employees who raised concerns internally, were ignored or pushed out. One senior employee reported suspicious activity to internal compliance. Nothing happened. This is the pattern in every major corporate fraud. The system doesn't fail because nobody saw it. The system fails because the people who saw it had no power, and the people with power had no reason to look. Braun is currently on trial in Munich, facing charges of fraud, market manipulation, and breach of trust. Marsalek, still missing, still wanted, still free, the investors who lost everything. Most never recovered a cent. And EY, the auditors who signed off for 9 years, were fined, banned from signing German audits for 2 years, 2 years, for 9 years of failure. That's the part that stays with you. Before I continue, I would like to say, drop a comment right now. One word. What do you think happened to Jan Marsalek? Is he protected? Is he dead? Or is he somewhere? Nobody's allowed to look. One word. Drop it below. I read every single one. Here's the lesson nobody wants to hear. Wirecard didn't collapse because one man was greedy. It collapsed because everyone around him chose comfort over truth. The auditors who signed off year after year, the regulators who attacked the journalists, the investors who ignored the warnings because the stock kept going up. Greed doesn't just live in the villain. It lives in everyone who benefits from the lie and decides not to ask questions. That's what makes corporate betrayal different from any other kind of crime. It doesn't just need one bad person. It needs 100 good people to look the other way. If this story made you think, subscribe, because next week we're covering another case. Same pattern, different industry, bigger collapse. And this time, the warning signs were even louder. Nobody listened then either.